Is this some kind of basketball isekai? That's so dumb, they'll never sell. Every once in a while, quality gets lost in the shuffle. We get around 30 anime releases a season, not counting OVAs or movies, and the industry is paying artists less than part-time UPS wages. Remember, behind every pair of moe eyes is a victim of man-child labor. With almost 90% of Japan's major animation studios being in Tokyo and the general cost of living in the area, they're more strapped for cash than Bengali tech support. That moment when you realize Japan is less first world than Bangladesh. If you put in your time, you'll be the next Tezuka, is what these guys think until they realize all the money comes from merch and licensing. For instance, the television shows make about a third of what they make off pachinko. Scheme of the pyramid variety aside, add competition to the mix and suddenly people start connecting the dots.
Hey, isn't this the plot to the last Isekai anime released last season?
Said the insipid cultureless swine. Why no, that was an MMO with his shishta. This one's with his mom, said the sophisticated sex-having patrician. Despite overexposure and burnout hitting the fan base as a result of the flood of content, anime is breaking records in sales since 2019. But then again, so did Jav, OnlyFans, and nearly every other adult outlet. I wonder what caused people to stay at home and binge smut like this. At this point, anime is somewhere between gravure and fanfiction.net. Most of the writing is paraphrased from what sold well last season, and there's a centralizing emphasis on how attractive the characters are. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm not reviewing over-fetishized, pandering material, especially since most anything in this sphere that tries to break the mold gets stuffed to the side. For instance, X-Arm, while unremarkable, was by far not much worse than most shows that passed for decent. Only thing that was different was the style of animation. Yes, the animation was jank, and yes, the show looks like it was made almost entirely with koikatsu models, but it at least had some interesting scenes, serviceable choreography, and a plot that didn't meander. There's not a chance it was worth 5 arbitrary number score less than Kiniro Mosaic. In this scene, Karen tells us about how she went to go buy ramen all by herself. Everyone is very impressed. In this scene, Aya looks like she pissed herself because Yoko's brother picked up instead of Yoko, and it's very embarrassing. In this scene, Karen takes off at Mach 4 speed to dogfight the Royal Air Force over the Levant to provide air support for her Mujahideen brothers to reclaim their lands from godless infidels in the name of Allah. Or she just babbles like a toddler and spouts chunny shit for the whole show. In this scene, wait, hold up. Nah, this ain't worth it. Just arrest me already, FBI. You get it, the show is basically ambiguously legal-age girls overreacting to mundane things. There's really no punchline to most of the jokes, it's like watching a Disney sitcom without a laugh track. Only reason to put this over X-Arm is that it gives spicier search yields on Danbaru, and if that's our metric then we're just rating doujins, which I'm all for, but just make sure we're clear on how hard this little girl cartoon made me bust being the criteria that we're judging by. Now repeat this loudly into your microphone, preferably with Tora and Sad Panda running in the background. Bonus points if you're Australian. What's a few feds when you got
Primo platonic love right here. That's the pure, unadulterated, unconditional stuff. Yeah, it's the profound romance I'm after. Not like those other floozies. Oh, feeling the purity today, boys.
Unadulterated. Pure. Pure. I'd personally like to see cute girls doing cute things, but replaced with a cast of all ugly bastards.
Tolemeka-chan! 3を各名闘争の経験しにるなとては3時でした。
ほとんどの人は万国の人間社会には複数の大問題やられとのとこする
左は全体主義の力です。ヒヒペロ
自己レギュレ分からずしも美術的な自己レギュレ分から皆さんバカ。
At this point, I don't think the industry is in it for that kind of risk, especially with the shows that do successfully subvert conventions beyond just having a gag title, making what would be a villain a protagonist, or looting your step-sibling or step-parent generally do poorly in sales. Animes like Punk. It was always kind of bad, but then it got popular and people started wearing t-shirts of bands that they didn't even listen to. After that, the Hot Topic scene rolled in and Punk wasn't even about music anymore. It was about Converses, chokers, skinny jeans, and Gurr from Invader Zim. And after that, part of a series on autism chic. When something gets popular, posers turn up. You can gatekeep all you like, but the barbarians are getting in eventually. Shit, even the people that you may have liked in the industry are liable to sell out. But where do we go for new content that's also fresh if the industry is busy killing itself via overexposure for the foreseeable future? Maybe Indonesian doujiins with enough mosaics to make your favorite Ero Guru Pipi Pupu doujiins look like the Basilica? Georgian anime? Procedurally generated anime? 8 milligrams of PCP at 5 AM type anime? With around 30,000 listings on my anime list, good luck sorting out some quality anime that got filtered out by bad taste. But no worries, I did the work for you. Kyojin Zoko no Hanayome hit by the summer of 2020 and it was a seasonal isekai. Wait, no, stop, don't leave. Hear me out. Think of the revenue. Think of my cat. How will I feed my cat? Do you enjoy starving cats? Is this the kind of sick shit that you're into? As I was saying to everyone who isn't on some zoo sadism shit, Studio Hokiboshi came out fresh that year with only one major publication under its belt and a cast of mostly inexperienced VAs headed by Ono Yuki voicing a Japanese Cisco on a trend cut cycle. If you can believe it, Ono's still freelancing and dodging seasonal contracts. Man's avoiding the shaft like every Yuri artist who couldn't get the rights to Madoka. Man is built like Teflon, impossible to stick it to him. The only downward dog position you'll catch him on is when he's slurping up the dip on Doge's Sun, the sponsor for this video. Doge's Sun is a community-based, purely peer-to-peer virtual version of life, currencies, and nation-states on the blockchain. I'm on my 7th car loan upping my stack. If this Jenga stack falls, my credit union is coming down with me. And while I got you on the horn, according to YouTube statistics, subscribers make up only 13% of my viewership, while non-subscribers are responsible for 50%. Please wave the flag to report to YouTube that you support the channel and stay notified. Every bit counts. So we're looking at an anime that keeps the modern formula. It's got your isekai, your power fantasy, this bishonen looking guy, and enough post-processing effects to make 2014 MLG blush. Pretty much everything except for cute girls. What sets Kyojin Zoko no Hanayome apart from its stock is that the power fantasy is inversed. Mizuki had everything going for him in his previous life, but is whisked away and dominated by Titan King Caius. We're watching a man who was a star athlete face before a man with power far beyond his. What unfolds is Mizuki being remade by Caius until he submits in spirit as well as body. It's like watching Tom Brady get isekai'd into Greek myth and Zeus happens to find him cute. He's humiliated, broken, overpowered, and at the same time is the last hope for Caius' dying race of titans. The story is a monkey's paw scenario for the person who indulges in isekai power fantasies, a caveat for those who believe that everything looks better on the other side when there's a screen comfortably placed between them and another world. We watch Mizuki slowly fall into Caius' hands and begin to watch him wholeheartedly believe in his ideals, completely swallowed whole by this fantasy world and being used as a tool for another man's desperate ambitions. The show's overtones remain almost unbearably dulcet, and never let up even while all of Mizuki's being is being eroded in the name of Caius' ambition to return his race to prominence. There's a confluence of intentions at work here. While it's sickening that Caius subdues Mizuki for his own designs, he's doing it to fulfill his duties as king and return the Titans to the greatness that they once had. But the show draws you into the saccharine tones until you too forget that Mizuki is descending further into his Stockholm Syndrome. This anime doesn't attempt any sort of moral degradation. The fall from grace never happens, and Mizuki is a hero in this world even if he's little more than Caius' pet. Isekai anime notoriously never end. The characters forget their past and become absorbed into a fantasy until their previous, usually unfavorable life is completely overshadowed by the world that they escaped to. Kyojin Zoko no Hanayome subverts this dynamic masterfully while playing the genre straight. Mizuki wasn't a NEET, he was at his peak, but all the same after being transported he becomes suited to his role in the world, being used as a resource by Caius, and completely abandons all thought of his previous life, relinquishing all of his agency to live out the fantasy he's become trapped in. Studio Hokiboshi did ITKZ's source material justice and then some. You'll be seeing a lot of the energy we got from the manga, though the anime is more kinetic and deviates from the imposing decorative framing ITKZ pivots on in his manga. For all of Kyojin Zoko no Hanayome's force and flair, it was a rough season for the industry as a whole, with the Arizona GOP condemning anime, Oppai Lolly controversy, and the banning of anime in Australia, cutting off a sizable chunk of the industry's overseas market. And no, I haven't forgiven the Arizona GOP or Australia for not liking my hobby. I still send threats to firebomb the elementary school that Sterling Griff's kids go to until they unban Shoujo Ramune. I'm making sure that Australia is the last domino that falls. Gyojin Zoko no Hanayome didn't draw in the same controversy as some of 2020's releases, namely Uzaki-chan, and was believed to be just another seasonal isekai. And that's a shame, since controversy generally tends to at the very least draw attention. Last time we had a deconstruction near this class was Madoka, but what Madoka lacks in comparison is subtlety and nuance. All it had that put its literary merit in the public eye was moe appeal. Although Gyojin Zoko no Hanayome had all the makings of a memorable show, the controversy surrounding the industry at the time, the slightest deviation in form, and oversaturation in the entertainment market clipped its wings before it could take flight, and it likely won't be the first victim of this circumstance. Gyojin Zoko no Hanayome was an emotional ride unlike any you've had before. It's the kind of anime I live for. It's like if you took a bullet train to the moon while your dog dies and you win the lotto. That's this show. It's hard to put into words what it is that makes Gyojin Zoko no Hanayome such an emotionally engaging show. I know you get attached to the characters, but that's not the only reason. The world of Gyojin Zoko no Hanayome is so rich in detail and yet so simple, and sometimes the story has 2 or 3 main points and the rest is a bunch of side stories about the different characters that seem just as important. It all combines into a big tangled mess, but then just like that, it turns a corner and the story goes in one of 2 different directions and you'll end up watching the show for the whole day just to see which one happens. Gyojin Zoko no Hanayome doesn't do things for the sake of doing things. It has its themes, its morals, its messages. The world of Gyojin Zoko no Hanayome is so rich in detail that it's almost distracting, but yet somehow that detail keeps it so that I watch TV and read picture books professionally while deep-throating a condenser mic. Donate on Ko-Fi so I can continue developing your opinions on seasonal Kuma trash for you. Special thanks to these guys. The Malplat Synopsis for saving me like an hour of watching this shitty BL anime. The channels I stole clips from on YouTube. If you recognize the watermarks, credit them in the comments. I don't fucking remember their names. Quora stats, text for writing the emotional parts, basic takes off and Twitter, parasocial relationship profiteering, my father's right hook for not hitting as hard as he thinks it did, memory, Yuihara, fair use for letting me steal footage and call it transformative, Korean Ink, Rent-a-Center Repo guys for not realizing that I moved, the almighty Yetsufusa, Shikashiro Konomi for giving weebs on a power trip or running with a subgenre that they deserve. And a very special thanks to the CSB and FDA for approving chemicals like PCB and pesticides that bestowed upon me the gift of autism so I can continue to collect government bennies so I can do this for a living. Oh yeah, and all these other fuckheads.
1, 2, 3, 4.